Pregame.com.
College Bowl action, Louisville and NC State. I'm Marco D'Angelo, and I'm joined by Scott Spreitzer, and we are going to break this one down. Scott, I did a video earlier today with Brian Leonard, and the first thing we started off, and it's a theme in a lot of the bowl games, motivation. Mm-hmm. Anytime we're doing these bowl games that are pre-New Year's Day, you got to question motivation. NC State has a built-in advantage to this game because of the proximity. This game's being played in North Carolina, so obviously there's going to be a lot of people in the crowd. A lot of people look at that as a huge advantage. To me, in this particular instance, I don't look at it as an advantage because NC State, what's your reward for staying in the state for the bowl game? That is how I look at it. I don't know how you do it. Now, we've already seen a bowl game played. Since we're taping here on the 21st, we had Louisiana Lafayette play already. Now, that was a different situation. There was a team that's never in bowl games, got a bowl game. Their fan base just, bought out the Superdome. I mean, it was all raging Cajuns there. That was a different story. They were excited about that. I don't see NC State being motivated here.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Louisiana Lafayette because not too long ago they were projected to be the 120th ranked college football team, and they end up in a bowl game just a year later. So, of course, they were just going crazy and had a great time and won the game for us. But as far as this game is concerned, the one reason I'm not really sold on NC State maybe not being as motivated as you think they would be is because Tom O'Brien has done such a great job, at least spread-wise, both with Boston College and now with NC State the last 4 years, down the stretch. I mean, they're incredible at the end of the regular season, the final 4 or 5 games of a regular season. They've been great in bowl games. In fact, if you break it down, and I know this is on the internet, I'm not breaking news here, but in the last 5 games of the regular season plus bowl action, he's actually 20-7, Tom O'Brien, against the spread at NC State. So he has whatever that sweet elixir is to make sure his team is motivated down the stretch and for bowl games. One of the things that I like about NC State, Marco, is they might have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, like they want to prove something. And maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into this, but because they got rid of Russell Wilson in the offseason, they basically forced him out because they were kind of tired of watching this guy give so much attention to baseball. And so he moves on and goes over to Wisconsin, has a great year. They also lost their starting running back in the offseason to an injury right before the start of the season. So it's kind of like guys who weren't expected to participate a lot in this year's team have had to come in and do well. And we saw this team play better down the stretch for the most part. We had NC State in the regular season finale, and I had them right where I wanted them, down 35 to Maryland. Just kidding. But anyway, so I think that maybe O'Brien's record.
I had the other side in that game. Yeah,
that was a cheap shot.
Yeah, it was. Thank you. I was trying to put that away, how that one was. But that was a great last interception there. Good job.
Just the way I thought it would.
It's better to be lucky than good sometimes.
I'll take it every time.
It's usually more profitable in the long run. I can't disagree with what you're saying about Tom O'Brien. On the flip side, I'm looking at this Louisville team, and this is a young ball club that's not, they're just learning success. I mean, when you think of Louisville, you don't think about Louisville football. You think about Louisville basketball, let's face it. And now they're starting to learn. This team won 4 out of their last 5 games to end the season. They played great down the stretch. What impressed me about them is 3 of the last 4 games were on the road. And they went to West Virginia, they went to Connecticut, and they went to South Florida, and they won all of those ball games to get themselves bowl eligible. So this is a team that, to me, is happy to be here and be in a bowl game and is focused. And I have a tendency to look at things, and me and Brian have these discussions all the time, and I've had it with RJ and VR. So now it's time for me to have this discussion with you. And I look at lines, and sometimes I see a game and the line just doesn't seem right. Some handicappers look and say, well, they see value. I look and I say, I see a trap. I still give Vegas more credit than most people do. They're the guys we're trying to beat. And there's a reason that when you go up and down the strip, all of those casinos are big, massive, and elaborate. It's not because everybody's kicking their butts. So I do respect them. And when I see something that doesn't look right, and it looks too good to be true, to me, I feel a lot of times It is too good to be true. And when I looked at this line of NC State, only -2, they're the bigger name school in this matchup, football-wise. They're playing in the state of North Carolina. How many of your average, I like to call them John Q. Public players, the recreational guys that really don't dig in nuts and bolts, they're going to look, see these two names, going to see where the game's being played, and said, they only got to win the game. They're laying less than a field goal. That's just too easy for my blood. And that's another thing that puts me over on the Louisville side here.
I do the same kind of stuff also. In fact, I posted something on the forum this past Saturday, late Friday night, early Saturday morning, on the BYU-Baylor game. And Baylor ended up winning. They were fortunate. They won the game. They won by 3. But I'm looking at them as that line kept going up and up, and I think they finished at +4, just as an example. And I thought, man, that just looks too easy. And we held off of it. We talked about on the forum about how we originally liked Baylor, but we decided to hang off the game. And at the time I posted that, it was probably +2, 2.5. And they ended up winning the game and everything. But more often than not, I'm going to back off a game and it's going to help me rather than hurt me when it comes to doing it that way. I'm the same way. I look for, if it looks too good to be true, it usually is. And another thing that you hit on that I like about Louisville and their motivation in this football game is that they're, as you mentioned, a very young football team that came on in the second half. This is a play-on team for next year.
Absolutely.
They got the quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, who's done a great job as the offensive line starts to protect them a little bit more. This team has developed some chemistry. And remember, it took time for this team to kick it into gear because they have upwards of 10 freshmen playing throughout the football game at times. So there's no way this team's not motivated for this particular football game.
And for the young young ball club like that, you say they mature at the end of the season. It is such a huge advantage for a coaching staff to have a young ball club that now they get an extra month of practice for next year.
Sure.
This is a building block. I like Louisville. I have them winning the game outright. I've got Louisville. My projected score is Louisville 23-17. I know you're on total, so what's your thoughts?
I'm hoping you're exactly right because I like the game under the total, and right now it sits about 44.5 as we talk about this. So I'd be very pleased with a 23-17 final score.
Well, there you go. We've got a tag team match for you. I say take Louisville plus the points. Scott says take the under. You get a 2-for-1. It's, hey, it's Christmas season. We're just giving gifts out. 2-for-1 special there, 2 freebies. Scott, you've got anything you want to add on this game, or any general thoughts about handicapping, some tidbits to throw out to our listeners?
Well, just about this particular football game, and the reason I come to the under, besides you like the 23-17 final score, and I have so much respect for that final score, that I like Mike Archer and what he did as a defensive coordinator for this NC State team. I mean, when you look at what happened last year with this team, they come into this year with 8 returning starters, few injuries here and there, but this guy has done a great job, and he comes with a terrific resume before he took the job as DC with NC State. So I think both teams, and they're both aggressive. And you might see Bridgewater and, you might see him struggle a little bit, enough to where the team scores their 23 points and gets the win, but at the same time doesn't go berserk on the scoreboard. And I think you're going to see both teams do that. But again, my biggest handicapping tool to start when I first start looking at the games is what you've hit on a couple of times, and that is motivational factor. Look at Nevada. As of Tuesday night, the 20th, they had sold 10 over-the-phone tickets for their bowl game in Hawaii. That might be a lack of motivation.
Yeah.
10, I'm not exaggerating.
10
tickets.
That's one thing to point out that supports your under in this game too. If you look at NC State's over-under numbers, all of their games are in the 50s. They had one game where they were 45 at Boston College. The total for this game is 44.5. So again, going back to, like I said, how NC State looks too easy to win is only -2. Doesn't the over look too easy at a number of 44.5 that it's so far off of what their norm is? You've got the right side here.
They're not giving you gifts in the sports books.
No.
There's a reason that you see a number like this and it's 6 or 7 points below a lot of the scores that they've had, as you just mentioned, and that's because the books are thinking it's going to be a low-scoring game and they're going to try to win a little bit more money than they lose. There's a reason they don't have giveaways during baseball season in the Las Vegas sports books for making a bet, and that's because they're going to do their best not to get beat, and that's why you see 100-foot screens on the walls. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I look at that and I see that NC State's played some 50s, as far as games are concerned, and that big battle that everybody remembers against Maryland when there were a ton of points put on the board comes back and I think haunts the over player in this one.
7 too many points in that game, if I recall.
I thought it was perfect, but I understand your...
All right, guys, there you have it. I want to thank Scott for coming in to do this video. He's Scott Spreitzer. I'm Marco D'Angelo. We'll be back with more videos here at pregame.tv.